Hey there. Thanks for joining us here, Simply Worldbuilding. Today we're going to go over a little bit about the culture and society of the Kres. If you were following us for the last episode or two, the Kres are the people that live aboard this gigantic, sort of moving, almost continent turtle. So we're going to go into a little bit of the details about how they actually live and how that works.
Yeah, so the Kres have been an interesting people because they're sort of this aquatic and also nomadic, but not necessarily nomadic in like the same way other people have been. Like they're kind of forced to move just based on where they live.
They stay stationary, but their home actively drifts around the globe.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, like I think their culture is going to be, informed a lot by that. But so I think there's kind of a lot of questions. One of the first ones I had was thinking about like their leadership and stuff like that. Like, because they're tribes.
Yeah,
they're tribes, and so they're not going to have like this monarchy. They're not going to have any sort of really overly refined system or anything like that. So we were thinking there was going to be like the three different sort of groups of these people. They had their sort of different schools of thought on how to use nectar and stuff like that. What about the leadership of those places? Like,
I kind of think, in my mind, since like the idea of like the worship and stuff is that they're sort of paying homage or giving thanks to the turtle that is giving them this place to live and their essence of life. So in my mind, it kind of says like the more like the spiritual people would be the leaders, like the sort of like the clerics or the mystics of this this turtle would be sort of in like a leadership position, not maybe necessarily like entirely governed by them, but would kind of still have that like social leadership aspect.
Yeah.
Because I think that kind of is the root of society and life on this moving island.
Yeah, it's definitely a good point. I was kind of thinking if they had like village elders. Yeah. But I was thinking of sort of having village elders from each of these sorts of towns and groups. So maybe they have like the elders select like big boy elder. Yeah. And maybe that's the one who sort of communicates with the other ones. Yeah. But maybe each town has its own group of elders, including that one.
Yeah, I do agree. I definitely pictured there being like in each of these settlements or villages or whatever, sort of like a local leadership as well. And how they pick them, is up for discussion. You think that, like, so what you're saying is you think they're gonna all, like, elect somebody, or is it kind of like elder, like, seniority, and then they get together and select one person from their town or from the entire population to be?
So when it comes down to picking who's going to be the leader of the town, or leaders of the town rather, I was picturing like elders as in like basically a seniority thing. Yeah. Like once you're kind of accepted as, having been around for a certain amount of time and the other group of elders kind of accept you in. Yeah. I'm not sure if there would be like a very specific age at which you can enter the elders or anything like that, but it's sort of something where, I think just the village would come to its eldest in order to like basically the eldest head of like maybe each of the families or something like that.
Yeah, and to kind of seek their wisdom because they have more, they've been through more cycles than anybody else around the globe. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so they, I think it's going to be kind of as simple as that. And then, maybe the eldest among them or whoever they choose is the person who will probably interact with the elders of the other tribes as well, I think. Or when it comes down to diplomacy in between or deciding on like, larger turtle-wide things.
Totally. So one interesting thing to keep in mind when you're designing like government, local or otherwise, is the sort of checks and balances that you have in play. We're probably not going to do a whole lot. Like, maybe there's some sort of like, everybody can agree this guy sucks, like get him out of here. But it's kind of like a society built on like respect and spiritualism and wisdom. So if you end up with, a whole bunch of people who are the elders and have some bad opinions, you could be stuck with that for a little while until people sort of get the message that this isn't working for us and decide that that's not the opportunity. But if you're looking at like, for instance, like the government of not a kingdom, but somewhere that like elects their people or something like that, how do they keep good officials in and get rid of bad ones? So keep that kind of thing in mind while you're building these at home.
I think with this sort of thing, like yeah, you might get a basically chief elder who doesn't have the best interests of the people around them at heart or whatever. And yeah, maybe they're just kind of running things into the ground. And I don't think there's like an official governmental way of dealing with that. I think it's basically what I think would be most likely to happen is the people are acting underneath them because this is how things are, and they're scared to say anything. But I think if it gets bad enough, like, you know, once one person says this is too much, then other people kind of join in, and then once that sort of revolution spreads, like it's sort of in like a natural, like, sort of human way. It's not like, okay, well, now we've got to send him through court. I think it would just end up being like, we're not going to listen to you anymore.
On the bright side, though, being that we're probably not dealing with like money on this like continent,
trade-based economy probably.
Is that there's gonna be less corruption, just kind of across the table. Because,
I'm gonna slip you a couple extra oranges just for you to, like, not gonna happen nearly as much.
There's always people that are gonna be shitty regardless, but when you're not worried about, you know, making a profit or anything like that, or looking out for your own best interests, like financially especially, there's not really much to gain by being an asshole or being corrupt. So there's probably going to be less corruption just across the board. Like, people, maybe they have bad opinions because they went through a few bad cycles, and so now they're maybe a little bit more like aggressive because they had noticed that people were coming to pillage their stuff, and so maybe they're a little bit more militant than is ideal for growth. But you're not going to really worry about, well, they're harvesting all of our trees and stuff and like ruining the ecology of the turtle, because why would they? There's not really any point in doing it if they're not making money out of it, right?
It's not. Well, this is the thing is, like, the greedy people will absolutely exist, but like the profiteering, I think, is going to be less than, like, hoarding of resources.
That'll always happen.
That's going to happen, but like hoarding of wealth is, I think, going to be a little bit of a different thing. But you're right. And it's also they're going to be so much smaller communities, though. Like, the distance between the people at the top and the people at the bottom is going to be very small, and so their ability to hold people accountable is also going to be way more.
Because if you're 50 kilometers away from the person in charge, and like you stroll by and you're like, hang on a second, why does he have a mansion and I'm living between two sticks? Like, you'll be able to see it, and that becomes a problem.
Well, especially like on a wider scale. So that definitely makes sense. But so basically, I think having like a group of elders just among the families, and then like basically an elder who kind of represents the village when it comes down to inter-tribe mingling and stuff like that, is probably the idea of what I think the governing system should be.
Totally. I like that a lot. That's pretty much exactly what I had in mind as well.
So I think that's a good way to basically round out at least how like their governmental system works. That's simple enough.
It's pretty much exactly what I was thinking too. Like, I think that sort of like the mystic spiritual people will be kind of like the moral leaders, and probably have a lot of say on different aspects of life, but that for each different community there should be somebody who's specifically there to lead them and say what we need for our specific community and that kind of thing, rather than somebody over at the head being in charge of the entire thing.
Although I could probably see a certain amount of like religious fanaticism developing in that specific community. But I think when it comes down to like turtle-wide politics, which is a hilarious phrase, because there's also like, we have basically the kind of caste of mystics, warriors, and hunters, and I think all three of those are going to play important parts in like the entire set of politics. And so having basically a small council of like also the tribal leaders is going to be important, I think, as well. Another question I had was basically like sort of what rituals do these people have, and what sort of holidays do they have? Because that's like, their sort of annual or whatever rituals are going to be very, very important, I think.
I think that because they don't have like a strict like 365-day calendar or something like that, marked like by seasons and moons and stars and stuff like that, I think a lot of it is going to be by location, like passing by landmarks and different, like, you know, maybe there's an eagle-shaped rock that is at the very tip of one of the continents that they pass by during each like second cycle or something like that. And so probably it'll be something more like that where they know, okay, we passed this, that is at the pinnacle of our like warm water cycle or whatever, and so now it's kind of like the what was that, not zenith, what is the, or like a solstice?
Yeah.
And so they know that like that's when we have the celebration for the warm water festivities, whatever. And so I think kind of what I'm getting at is that it might be more like landmark based,
interesting,
versus like calendar based, where every February 14th or whatever is this, you know?
Yeah, totally. That would make a lot of sense too, because I can see the turtle not necessarily, like it has its sort of cycle that it takes, but it's not going to be on the day.
Exactly the same each
Yeah,
time.
and so maybe like the moment they see their first tropical island or something like that is sighted, or like, you know,
or like
they have a Groundhog Day with like dolphins.
Well, exactly. Like they see their first like whitefish in, you know, the last 4 years or whatever, and so like they know, okay, we're getting into the colder waters, we see the whitefish, but the whitefish are like really good meals or whatever, like they're bigger, they feed more people, that kind of thing. So they kind of have these like landmarks, be it actually like a physical thing they can see, or when the first something happens. Is that might kick off like, now we're getting into this time and it's time to celebrate what we have been through, what is to come. Like,
well, they're probably going to have similar ritual, well, more holidays to us when it comes down to, oh, warmer weather is coming, colder weather is coming, and so it's just going to be in a bit of a different cycle for them. But entering Arctic waters is probably going to be something where they probably have something close to like winter holidays, like like Christmas or Hanukkah, for example, where a lot of it is like kind of about the togetherness with people and
the warmth of your friends and family,
and trying to be there for each other and stuff like that. And then the opposite with like spring,
the peak of spring or something like that. Now you know you can be a little bit more loosey-goosey with your resources and stuff like that, because there's going to be a time of plenty kind of thing.
Totally. So that makes a lot of sense cycle-wise, but the other thing I kind of wanted to nail down was like exactly how they use nectar, because that's such an important part of their culture.
Gotta talk about the nectar, because this is one of the things that like is gonna have pretty big impacts outside of their actual culture and home as well. I think that for them, we know that they use it like kind of religiously or spiritually at least.
Yes, definitely.
As well as they all have different sort of uses for them that give them different, like, almost kind of like abilities, like, that actually change them. But I kind of, at the core of it, it's that this is kind of like a gift from the turtle to them, and so they are thankful for receiving this gift. And so I think that there's probably an aspect of giving back, and I think that there's the other side of the coin being, like, enjoying the gift.
And it's definitely going to be a very sacred resource that they don't use frivolously, I don't think. But how abundant is it going to be, and how is it going to appear?
So, we had originally thought of a couple of different options for the answers to that. Be it, I think, kind of the way that I like it is that it's almost like an oil that comes up from our skin. And so you may have, pardon the visuals, but like how we get like pimples and stuff like that. There may be like sort of not like filled thing, like not filled sex, so not exactly like pimples, but like pools, almost wells, exactly, where there's like an excess of it. But I also like the idea of it sort of like almost running through most natural things, maybe not like rock formations and stuff,
but like living things,
but
like trees,
like trees and stuff, where there'd be like almost like a sappy residue that like is excreted by it. And that's another reason why like their boats are kind of infused with it, and if they build a kayak to go out and fish, that the turtle knows, okay, that's a friend, that's not an enemy.
I mean, that automatically applies it to the resources on board, which is nice. But so these sort of wells, are they going to pop up randomly? Do you think there will be, is it a mix of both? Like there are fixed places where it would start, and also like they can just kind of have natural well springs? Yeah,
I think that maybe there's like a small amount of places that kind of have always been this way, and maybe like it's a big deal when one dries up, or maybe it's a big deal when one forms and stays, but that there's also kind of like well, if a small crack in the shell happens just because it's expanding or growing or something like that, or B, maybe an injury, that there could be like, you know, a small temporary well or something like that, but that does eventually like seal over or something like that.
Okay, so yeah, we'll kind of have like probably a couple like sacred sites.
Yeah.
Where like it's come for a long time and it continues
and they've
to.
known that for the last 75 generations, there's been a big wellspring here of the nectar.
Yeah.
But then if it seals back up, then okay, well, something bad has happened. You know, we need to atone because maybe it's upset with us or something that has taken this away from us, even though maybe it just healed over or something like that.
Yeah. I think these sort of primary places, they're probably, I would say, just shooting from a number at maximum 5, I'd say probably 2 or 3.
Yeah, I was thinking in the neighborhood of like 2, 3 as well, so that they're still very significant where there is one.
But I think for the sake of most of their ritual use of it, they will probably go to these.
Totally.
Because it feels a little less reverent to just scrape it off the ground.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So to have a place where they know they can get it, and they can get it in this moderate abundance.
Yeah. And you know,
it'll be like a trek there as well.
Yeah, totally. It could be like a coming of age thing. We love our coming of age. It's such a good symbolic moment, and it tells you so much about a culture.
Yeah, definitely.
So we've talked about it for a few different places, but for here, I kind of like the idea that, like, you know, you turn a certain age and you make this trek, and then you go and maybe you full on just bathe in it, and you're kind of almost like baptized in.
Yeah, that's kind of a cool idea. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, the idea of doing that, because I imagine these wells aren't going to get like corrupt, like it's not going to get dirty from you being in it.
I just had a thought as well.
Okay.
What if like this? Feel free to shoot this down because it's not exactly following what we had set up before. But what if when you're like baptized, it can have different effects on you, and that kind of puts your place in society. Like you could, you know, begin to develop the webbed fingers and feet of like the hunters, the fishers. But you could start developing like the harder scales of like the warriors and stuff like that.
Like there's a little bit of a genetic predisposition to maybe have one of these sort of traits. Yeah,
because we had thought already that like depending basically on how you actually partake in the nectar is kind of more like how that would manifest. But it's kind of a cool idea to be like, oh, it's the big day, like graduation or whatever. Like, what am I gonna get? Like, what is my life gonna look like? It's a neat idea.
Yeah, it might be interesting if, like, during this sort of ritual, they expose you to all 3 of them.
Yeah.
Like you're basically left in this sort of, you're basically left in a fucking spa.
Yeah.
Where like the vapor is happening in your container,
the essential oils.
And there's lavender fucking everywhere.
Yeah.
But you're bathing in it, but also you're kind of having to drink of it. And so whatever sort of trait actually manages to sort of take hold on you, they're like, okay, well, continue to use it in this way so that this can strengthen, because
been chosen for you, right? That's what you're supposed to be.
Yeah, exactly. And it might also be an interesting idea that because like it's like, okay, well, why would I not want all the things? I think it would be interesting that if you were like some person who wasn't privy to the ways of like these rituals and stuff, and you were just like, oh, this provides me with a whole bunch of boons, like depending on these, and you do it all, you don't get the specialization. You know what I mean? If you try doing all of it, you end up getting like only a little bit of all of it instead of like a really specialized one that actually helps you.
I think that it's also an interesting idea for maybe this is just something in the genetics, like there's some like very, very distant relation to the actual turtle itself, where like if a human from a different city came aboard, they were welcomed in and did the ritual, nothing would happen. And that kind of like causes the people that actually get a hold of this to use it for other reasons, to try and figure out how this works, that kind of stuff, use it like science-y. And then they have found out other ways. Like somebody had mentioned that like maybe this could be the like preemptive piece that ends up being like a part of gunpowder or something like that, where like people have tried to figure out how to get those same
resources
things.
or the boons rather.
But it just doesn't work for them because they don't have the genetic thing for it, but in this like attempt to kind of reverse engineer it and figure it all out is how people ended up coming up with the fact that it's some sort of extreme magical accelerant or like a gunpowder or something crazy sciencey magicy happens about it that they can figure out, but they could never figure out the Kres part of it.
It's an interesting idea, but I want to caution it with the idea that it locks us out of another way of thinking, which is because we were thinking that people could be accepted onto the turtle.
Yeah.
And so to be accepted as one of these people and not sort of be able to partake in their rituals also does make it so that, one, it separates the Kres as a people from people a lot more. So it really depends on like how close to human do we want these people to be, and also how much do we want people to be able to integrate into their society as well, because like if you are accepted as a human there, like can you actually have kids with these people as well if the genetic difference is that wide? It's one of those instances where we're going to have to pick one or the other, so I just wanted to bring that up.
In my mind, I was thinking that like they could still have children, and those children would still have like that genetic thing override it, and they would be like, they would still have whatever genes, so they could be a normal functioning member of the Kres society and get those traits and all that. But the human may never actually do that. Maybe it's more of like a what's the word I'm looking for? But like being involved in it for like a long enough time, you eventually, like after absorbing all this from holding wood and inhaling just the vapors from the ground stuff, eventually it starts to build up, and then you can actually get those traits or something.
I just had a thought.
Yeah.
Because it's a coming of age thing.
Yeah.
And so maybe if you've already grown up without being exposed to it, you don't have the ability for the biological change.
I do like that. That's a cool idea.
So yeah, like you can be like you said, like you can just be born a human.
Yeah.
But you have to partake in this ritual at this sort of certain time. When you're probably like the most receptive to it, and it's the least dangerous to like your biology or something like that. So yeah, like if you're brought on, like you're not so different from these people, but obviously you're going to look different and not be able to necessarily do all the same things. But if you have kids with them, it doesn't separate that. Like it kind of rolls it all up.
Yeah. It also sort of opens up the gate for a lot of like intriguing potential stories later on as well. Like a Kres at a young age, like, you know, went out on a little fishing boat or something like that, fell off and survived, but now they're looking at like, I'm trying to get back, but I only have 4 years to do it, and in the 4-year cycle it's going to be over there, and like you're trying to figure out how do I get back in time to, you know,
actually do this ritual. Yeah, that's an interesting little plot as well.
Yeah, it opens up the door for things like that.
Yeah, no, I like that idea as well. No, that's good, because that you kind of get the best of both worlds with sort of explanation.
Sorry, I forget, like, what was the core of this question?
Well, just how do they use nectar, and how do they use it ritually and stuff
just
like
checking
that.
in to make sure we haven't strayed way too far.
Yeah, the moment where you're like, oh fuck, am I out of left field? Is this the left field I'm in right now? But no, we're still good. But yeah, so that's how it is used as sort of a coming of age experience. But now going forward, oh, actually, no, rewind a tad.
Yep.
You have this ritual, you develop the fins, for example, the webbed hands and stuff like that. Would it be culturally acceptable, because this is the thing, is like, we know how to specialize. Would it be acceptable for a person to choose one instead of undergoing this sort of chosen ritual? Is that maybe a cultural taboo?
I think that, I don't know. I feel like if you were to, say, be born with, or like, you know, gain the scales of the warrior people, that if you were to, like, deny that and want to just be a fisherman, a hunter, or whatever, I don't think that would be, like, illegal. I think that maybe you'd catch some sideways glances. Like, it's strange, but not like immoral, illegal, like.
Well, because I can just picture like, oh, like the plot of like, oh, we've had 10 generations of fishermen, and now I'm one of these more mystic ones.
Yeah.
Because I would picture a lot of side glances coming from your family and extended family and tribe being like, what the fuck, you're not like us, why aren't you like us?
Well, I think that, you know, you were kind of born or chosen to be that, and that they would probably accept it if you were given that, but if you were to choose it for yourself, that might be weird or wrong. But if you're still given a trait, and then decide that like I would rather be a fisherman or I'd rather be a warrior or whatever, that maybe that's all right. But to like throw the ritual, the coming of age ritual, and like, oh, I'm gonna be sneaky and not like breathe in or drink the nectar.
I'm gonna not breathe the whole time.
Yeah. But if you're to try and cheat it like that, then that would be scummy. Like they don't want that.
So they do the chosen ritual for you, but you can choose your own destiny after?
I think so. Is that you're given the traits that are supposed to be yours. Like these are your traits, and if you choose to use them, that's kind of up to you. But this is who you are as a person, and who you are, like who you want to be, is kind of still like.
Actually, again, what if we do it like this? Because it feels weird to have this really important seeming ritual and then just kind of throw it away, like just by the person's choice, which is nice and all, but again, it feels weird to have this importance put into this just to have that. So especially because since it's like this sort of ritual, very much to do with their god. Yeah. It again feels a little weird, but what if? So if we did it, because it's like the will of the turtle, which one you get, it feels like, right? But maybe if you're from a clan or from the tribe of these people, because I do know we mentioned as well that we don't want these tribes to be like very exclusively one of you're these people, you're these, like I think the intermingling is going to be a thing
100%.
And so like you say, like I don't think there's going to be a lot of like, oh, you're one of the fishermen, like you're not welcome here, like that's not a thing. But if you come from a family of people who have had this very, very consistently, you can either go with the will of the turtle, or they won't shun you for choosing to follow your clan. You see what I mean? So you don't get the choice of all of them. Yeah. But it's like, I want to go with my family, and they can't fault you for that. Yeah.
But if you want to be something otherwise, potentially, then it has to be up to the turtle. You don't get to choose your other path if you give in your choice for the turtle's choice.
Yeah, I think that works. So yeah, basically you don't have the choice of all three. At best you have the choice of two, where it's like, oh, okay, my family has been fishermen, whether by choice or will of the turtle or not, and you do the ritual and you get the hard scales, for example, and it's like you're either scared to have this sort of different role in society and you want to return to your family so that you can do that and they don't shun you for that, or you can embrace that and move on, but you can't just kind of choose to be a mystic out of the third one. And I think that kind of again adds importance to the ritual, and it kind of like helps you come to your own sort of self-understanding. But yeah, again, choosing to follow again the will of the clan or the will of the turtle is like the choices you have in your society, I think.
I like that.
Yeah, totally. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. How frequently are they going to use nectar? Like, what's the frequency at which they do this?
I don't know. I would say that maybe for the mystics and the warrior archetypes, that they're probably more frequent. Like the mystics may have the like sensors burning at all times, and so they're just kind of constantly like getting a little bit, and that maybe it's sort of like a part of your ritual, but like your daily thing to like sharpen your skills, rub on that lotion, that sweet nectar onto your skin, and whatever, as like the warriors. But then maybe for the others, like the hunters, the fishermen, it's just kind of like when you can get it or something like that.
So yeah, basically making it so it can be a daily occurrence for everyone, but it doesn't have to be. Yeah. I think it's something that people are like, well, you got to keep up on it. Yeah. But that kind of makes the most sense, because like they have their rituals surrounding it for sure, but there's also just like the daily use of the stuff.
That's kind of what I was thinking, but I guess maybe it could also be like compared to like praying, where like maybe you're expected to like do it once a day, but like, hey, if you fall behind, like it's okay. Yeah. Just do it when you can. Yeah. Right.
Well, because I can picture the mystics and the people who partake in that sort of thing, like they basically always have some sort of incense going in almost any interior. Probably not like work related or something like that, but anywhere like you're not gonna be a blacksmith and like have this stuff going all day, but I can see like homes, but also places where you lounge a little bit, like restaurants or something like that.
Yeah, if you go into like like a church or something like that, like a public place.
Yeah.
They'd probably have something going.
But yeah, like I say a restaurant, like they're gonna have restaurants.
Yeah.
But like again, just like places where people just kind of like again lounge or exist or socialize. I think that would make sense, but somewhere where people are like doing hard work is probably where they would not particularly have it. But it's going to be there all the time. With the sort of warriors, I think for them it's going to be a little bit more timed. It's going to be a little bit more militant, where it's like, okay, you wake up, you do it. You go to bed, you do it. You wake up again, you do it. You go to bed, you do it. Because again, since they're kind of considered the warriors, it's probably going to be on this sort of more sharp regimen and more disciplined.
Totally.
And then maybe for the hunters and fishers and stuff like that, because they drink it. It's like,
it could be something like you set up your morning glass of tea or whatever to like start your day off or whatever. But like, oh, I'm kind of like running behind or whatever. Like I slept in by accident, so like, well, I'll get it later, or I'll get it at dinner time, or I don't need it for today. Like, that kind of vibe.
Yeah, I was almost picturing more like at night they drink it to again in like a social environment, kind of like booze, but it's not gonna fuck them up. But yeah, like you know, after a hard day's work or something like that, like they have their their bottle of the nectar and they partake in it with their friends and stuff like that at like a social gathering.
Also, while we're on the topic, I kind of think that like, and this is not necessarily like based on like which you're given, but I think that there's got to be kind of somebody in charge of like giving this out to people, rationing it out. So I think that would kind of fall down to like the mystics as a part of the like moral and spiritual like role that they take, is to make sure that this is being given out to people so that they can, you know, keep up on their spiritualism and their rituals and all that kind of thing. So there'd probably be some people who are just given the straight up like job of like, go barrel up some of this stuff, do your prayers over it or whatever, bless it, whatever you need to do, and then like kind of divvy it up into things, send it to people, like that kind of thing. There's probably got to be like a whole like job to do that.
Yeah, I think that would be correct. And the Mystic's the easiest one. It would be kind of interesting if there was like kind of a wellspring at almost like the base of the neck of this thing, or like just. But I also picture probably one being somewhere like central shell, like around where the warriors are as well. But yeah, I think having the Mystics, there's probably just a couple different areas in the shell where the shell is kind of like opened. There'll probably be like maybe 2, maybe 3 of those. But yeah, it'll probably be up to like the Mystic class of people in order to ration it out and stuff like that. So yeah, that's probably a good point as well. Okay, I think that kind of handles all I was curious about on it, but I did want to dive into how that worked exactly a little bit better and make it a little bit more. How much are they going to trade it?
Well, I think personally that they probably want nothing to do with like trading it, giving it away. I think that when people do get it, take it away and take it home to like other countries, they've probably done it through shady, nefarious means, or been very sneaky, or been very coercive and given them something that they really need to somebody who's maybe not morally completely upright.
It's like, been smuggled. Or someone snuck on in like some sort of really clever way. Because I was going to say, like, this is definitely a very sacred thing for them. So basically them being like, no, you can't do that. But obviously your sort of corrupted warrior or hunter or anyone, and your bishop
just be willing to forsake what is the right option if they really, really desperately needed something, or maybe they're just a bad person or something like that.
More than likely bribery. I feel like that's going to be the most common route, but it's probably not going to be in like, oh, here's your barrel of it. It's going to be like, here's a few bottles.
Exactly.
This
like,
is what
I get this bag.
This is what you can sneak away.
Exactly.
Sneak away with.
A Ziploc baggie of nectar.
Your dime bag of nectar. But okay, so yeah, it's a taboo to give it away to anyone.
Totally.
So it kind of brings up the question as well, like speaking of outsiders, how are you accepted? How are you brought in?
That's a tough one. I think that it's kind of on like a person-to-person basis.
Yeah, fair enough.
Because you're not going to have a lot of situations where you're really interacting with them, but I think that it would take probably a lot of time and a lot of proving yourself. Because even to be able to like actually come aboard, I think is a great honor, and then you would have to really do something extraordinary. But I think I would say, like, you know, let's throw it back to like one of the people got abandoned, like left behind by accident, and you like help them get back. You've done such a great service to these people, to this society. That you can be like maybe an honorary member, and maybe you do decide to live there, or maybe you just kind of get the free pass to like come aboard now or whatever. Like, anytime we're passing by, feel free. Like, we know you.
Yeah, no, it is fair to be like a case by case sort of basis, but I just think they would probably have like some sort of laws to do with that. Like you if you are going to let someone on, like it is a case by case basis, but it's going to be okay. You have to be accepted by multiple people.
Yeah, I think that like maybe there is a system in place for like sort of vouching.
Yeah.
Like, we'll let this person on because you and you and you have vouched for them, but if they do something shitty, you're straight up like gone.
You're
like
in trouble
you're like
as well.
exiled
Yeah.
or something like that. Like to make it very intense, like there's repercussions. You can vouch for them and they can get on, but like they're not a part of the society yet, and if they do something shady, then that's on you specifically.
Yeah, well, maybe it's got to be like a total of... Okay, hear me out. What if we had to actually just come onto the turtle? You have to be endorsed by 3 people.
Yeah.
But if you're going to live on the turtle, you have to be accepted by an elder specifically.
Yeah.
Like that sort of thing is like, okay, they'll give you the blessing to be there. But if you're just going to come aboard as just like a friend or something, like, okay, sure, but you have to be friends with a couple people.
Yeah.
You have to be friends with a few people, and they probably have to be with you almost at all times.
Yeah, and like I think that would still be a difficult situation to become friends with 3 people, but it's not impossible, because it could be something like, okay, they send the boats out to go trade, and like you row out of your city or whatever, and like you meet up and hang out, and these people have traded with you a couple of times. You've given them a really good deal. You helped them out because they desperately needed some sharpened steel for their pickaxe. You know, they needed something. You've helped them out. Now you've networked with a handful of people or whatever, and they may be willing to like, yeah, like I've trusted this person. We've done business a handful of times. They've really helped us out in a pinch. And then like, you're welcomed on, but like, you know, even those 3 people may still not fully trust you, but they've done some stuff with you before, and they're like, hey, you get the pass from me, like you hang out, prove yourself kind of thing, and then you can stay.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, obviously being accepted on into a serious degree is something where it's like, okay, you got to check with the elder, because we can't just... The elder knows everybody, so they need to know you. We can't just have this outlier in this sort of area. So, okay, that does make sense, because I still wanted the ability.
Totally. I think that it should be, possible, but I think that no matter what way you slice it, it's going to be like pretty rare, but doable. Yeah,
so, and kind of another question is like, how does someone, like, do they excommunicate people for certain crimes as well? Like, can you be an actual accepted Kres and be kicked off the turtle, and for...
I think that that's possible. I think that it would have to be pretty steep, but I think that that's possible.
Well, it feels like something that would probably happen from some sort of serious taboo. Like, why would they not just kill you anyway?
No, exactly. I think that it would be something like more on the spiritual side. Like, you've done something so bad, like morally or to the turtle or something like that, where like they're kind of pushing you out of their society. Like maybe they don't just downright want to kill you because it wasn't like a violent crime or something, but you've done something so morally bad that they don't want you to be a part of it.
I mean, probably trading away nectar is probably...
I think that would do it.
Yeah, that would be one of the main things.
Because I want it to be like, not even just for excommunication reasons, but there are people who have left and kind of gone out to like go join other societies, and so like it may be really rare, but you could see a Kres out in public. And maybe that's like so they can network and form connections and form relationships and stuff, like with the intention to come back. It's still benefiting the society. Maybe some people just want to go out and adventure and see the world, and that's not wrong. They can do that, but probably also not like a ton of people do it. But enough where you can still see them out in public and that kind of thing.
No, that's fair enough. Probably just like sins of nectar in particular, like wasting a whole bunch of it, like intentionally, or giving it away to someone who's not supposed to have it, or hoarding it and depriving others of it, or something like that.
Or maybe specifically or intentionally causing harm to the turtle. But something I think that kind of feels like you're forsaking your religion and your people, and
Yeah.
so now in exchange your religion and your people are going to forsake you, kind of thing. That's
Yeah.
sort of the payment for that.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I think a violent act against the turtle, I think they just kill you.
That's honestly probably fair, yeah.
But yeah, stuff to do with like misuse of the nectar
Yeah.
itself is like, okay, well, you don't have the privilege of living here anymore.
Exactly.
Another thing I kind of thought of as well, because like you said, like there's nectar imbued wood,
Yeah.
and most of anything growing out of the ground or
Yeah.
even flowing on the ground, like water or something like that, is going to have
Pick
this.
up a little residual.
Yeah. So what are they going to trade?
No, I know. I think that like there's gonna be. It is tough, isn't it? I don't think that like having like the residual stuff on it is gonna make it like, oh, they're forsaking their culture by trading this out. Like if they trade some of their good wood for other people, maybe those people don't understand exactly that that is like, oh, the secret to it.
Yeah.
The secret's in the sauce. Like that's
Yeah.
how we get aboard it. Maybe a couple of people have figured that out.
Yeah.
But like otherwise they maybe still have like rare metals that don't like form anywhere. Like maybe it grows. Like there's certain like rare metals or something like that that grows from this turtle. And that's something they can trade.
Maybe because we were thinking of trees, it's like, oh, you can take it from the sap or something like that. But like, what if that wasn't the case? Maybe the nectar itself does imbue it with the character. Like a tree is the best example because it's something where like it kind of grows and you can sort of extract something from it as well. But maybe you can't extract nectar from it or nectar sap. Like it doesn't have the same properties once it's kind of run through a living being.
Yeah.
Because if you take, for example, a nectar-grown tree, take the seeds and plant them in regular ground, they will grow as the original tree, like what it was before it was planted on the turtle.
Yeah.
And so, like, it'll have these properties, but it's not like you can cut down one of these trees and extract nectar from it.
Exactly, totally.
So that would open it up because it's like, hey, we have these very specifically nice resources. This wood is particularly hard or easy or good for boats or like it has
or maybe
these
it's
unique properties.
particularly pliable, but it's
Yeah.
like still sturdy, so you can like make it into shapes that you couldn't with normal wood without it breaking, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and you can do that with like maybe like fruits and a lot of the fish that maybe hang around the schools of fish that hang around will like become more abundant, and so they probably just are also like, hey, we got fish. Do you want like 30 times the amount of fish that you normally get?
I was gonna say they would probably have mad fish because like the thing with like these residual oils like sort of filtering back out and like giving that like rebirth of nutrients to the areas that they're in is gonna mean that they're constantly like just a flood with fish.
Yeah,
And so they could go in and be like, hey, we got these super huge like fish that you probably can't even get here, but if you did, they're like this big, you know, like that kind of thing. So I think they still have like things to trade, some being rare, but also some being just practical. Like they got hella like wood and fish and maybe some strong rope from the infused fibers of plants and stuff like that.
Yeah, totally. Just like they have the particularly high quality stuff.
Yeah.
The thing that actually the fishing actually kind of makes me think of is you'd think there would be certain schools of fish, types of animals that would like follow the turtle around during its time within their climate. And that makes me think too, like, what is their schedule for trade? Do they trade like are they just constantly bringing fish to the mainland because they're so abundant? They're like, we're not gonna eat all this and we want to trade stuff with you.
I think pretty
Is it gonna
much
be like weekly, monthly?
I think pretty much any time that there's like a settlement within sight of this thing, that there's probably boats coming from there out and boats leaving the turtle to go like even on shore or just meet them halfway. Like I assume that there's got to be like sort of a middle ground where people will cautiously come up to it and hope that people come out to trade with them.
Yeah, they want to get first dibs.
Yeah, exactly. But then they can't get too close because otherwise they'll just straight up get like a fin or something like that.
And it's like the more daring merchants might get as close as possible and then like get first dibs. Yeah. But then they're like, their rivals are like, oh, well, we're gonna get a little closer.
Yeah,
oh, that was too
that
close.
Was a little too close.
Yeah. So it's this constant risk. But so it's gonna be semi-constant as long as they're in the area.
Yeah.
But the turtle's gonna be going around, and so it's like, okay, well, there's this port. But okay, it's gonna move on to the next city in the next couple weeks, and so it makes its way there, and so they start trading with the next city. But it's like semi-consistent at their convenience.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense as well.
Yeah, and people might just like you know, sail their small little boat out close enough, and they're like, hey, we got, like, trying to catch, like, a fisherman's, like, attention. We got oranges, and they're like, actually, I could go for some oranges. You know, I don't have much on me at the time, but I've got, like, this net woven from the fibers of whatever, so it's the best net you could get. And they're like, hey, well, that's convenient, because I actually could use a good net. And so like, just kind of do handoff trades, like, you know, in the space between this nearby city or village or whatever and the turtle.
Yeah, totally. No, no, that makes a lot of sense. So I like that idea. Yeah, the trade is like semi-consistent, and so like also the people on the turtle aren't like so isolationist that they're like completely separated. Like they have like what would be considered modern goods and stuff like that to trade. It's just they have to do it strategically. So yeah, no, that's a pretty cool. That's a good and consistent and what feels realistic. For a way to basically flush that out as well. I mean, I think that's really all the questions I could possibly think of for
I feel like that's all the things that we need to know about the turtle, and then kind of as we're skating around the globe and talking about other places, maybe there's some specifics like with how they interact with or feel about the turtle.
Yeah, good point.
But as far as talking about the turtle specifically, I think we've done enough, and now as we continue around, we'll connect other things back to it a little bit more. We'll keep it in mind.
Well, because I feel like if I was to run a game, that this feels like enough information for me to start just to start making cities but make it feel like a consistent people.
Exactly.
Because obviously you'd still, if you want to use this stuff at home, like absolutely go ahead. So yeah, if you want to take the concept of this civilization and this turtle and stuff like that and use the stuff we've built and change it how you see fit, that's totally good. But I feel like with this, you could start working with physical bits.
Totally.
You could be like, okay, now I'm going to put a little tribe here and here, these are some characters and like this is how they react. So but it feels like fleshed out enough culture where you could start to dig into specifics. So I like that. That's good. That's probably a good place to cut it off as well.
Cool.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll probably move on to maybe another culture into the next episode, but thanks for tuning in for the development of our lovely dragon turtle. Thanks. Hey there. Welcome to the end card. So for this week, we didn't have an abundance of comments to select from, so we're probably just gonna have to wait to get to a few more as they develop a little bit more. But we do have a little bit of an announcement. So probably coming up semi-soon here. We don't know exactly when. But we're going to be partnering with a friend of ours to develop a little bit of merch for us. So we'll probably have some t-shirts and stickers and a handful of things like that to hopefully, put online for, anyone who wants one. If you guys think that's cool, then we'll be able to check it out. Now, it's kind of in the works right now. We don't know exactly when or how exactly, but it's going to be more than likely out there pretty soon.
So we'll keep you updated on that. Follow us on the Instagram there, and we'll try and keep that one as updated as possible about this. But if you've got like ideas or requests for things that you'd like to see in the merch, things that you have interest in, let us know in the comments below, and we'll make sure we get that going for you. If we can we'll do our best. But thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you soon. Like our video, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Spotify, and feel free to hit that subscribe button. See you later.
Thanks.